All right, I've informed them. Okay, you'll be getting the right homework because, like, I remember I have like when I was writing the homework for you, I sent it to them. So, um, yeah, your homework contained the difference between asexual and sexual reproduction, and the question says why there is no need for gamete formation in asexual reproduction. These are the two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, just wait 1 second. All right. So in the last class, we have done up till fission. Also, can you answer the question why there is no need for gamete formation in asexual reproduction?
Ma'am, because only a single parent is involved and the offspring
Mhm.
as same as the parent.
Very good. And because there is no need for fusion of gametes, so why the gametes will be made only, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, let us talk about the two different types of fissions. The first one is binary fission, and the second one is multiple fission. Now, in the case of binary fission, what happens? Firstly, it takes place now here in all the different types of asexual reproduction. You always must remember the examples. Okay, the examples are very important. So, if I'm talking about binary fission, you must remember the example amoeba, paramecium. Okay, so now let us see what happens in binary fission. So here, first of all, the nucleus or the DNA, nucleus is not there. So the DNA, okay, the DNA of the amoeba or the paramecium, they would start dividing, okay, and they would divide into two parts, right? They would start moving towards the opposite pole. And when they have moved towards the opposite sides, then what will happen? Then the cytoplasm would divide like this, and it would result in the formation of two daughter cells. Okay, so firstly, the DNA divides and then the cytoplasm divides and results into two daughter cells. So, this type of process of reproduction, of asexual reproduction, is binary fission. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and it takes place in amoeba and paramecium. Got it?
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
moving forward, let us talk about multiple fission. So, multiple fission takes place in the case of Plasmodium and mostly under unfavorable condition. Unfavorable condition, what does it mean? It means that when not enough food, not proper, so like weather condition, pH condition, temperature condition, when all of these conditions are not there, so then what happens? That a cyst is formed all around, okay, and when the favorable conditions arise, then one organism divides into many daughter cells. Okay, many daughter cells are synthesized. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So multiple, as the name suggests, more than one. right? More than two, even more than five. So multiple daughter cells are like,
Ma'am,
mm, yes,
the parent organism itself divides to become a daughter cell, right?
exactly. In the case of binary fission, and here also one organism only divides and becomes many daughter cells. Okay.
Yes.
Hmm. So this is like these are the two types of fission. First one was binary fission. The second one was multiple fission. Binary fission takes place in the case of amoeba and paramecium, whereas multiple fission takes place in the case of plasma. Now let us talk about the second type of asexual reproduction, that is budding. Now budding takes place in the case of hydra and yeast. Here in basically what happens, like a bud, okay, this is a bud, this is an outgrowth, okay, it is like an outgrowth which is present on the body of the parent. Okay, now this bud would mature and grow and develop into the whole new organism. Okay, and when it develops properly, then it separates from the parent, and then it lives like an independent individual. Okay, so first
Yes,
of
ma'am.
all, it grows on the body of the parent, not in, on the body. Okay, and later on, it like after developing nicely, like it separates and then lives like an independent individual. So budding is
Ma'am, your
clear.
voice is low, ma'am.
Still,
Yes, ma'am. Like it breaks in between.
okay, okay. Is it fine now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I was saying that the bud is always formed on the body of the parent, not in the body. Always remember this thing. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, the bud would develop into a new organism on the body only, but after developing, it would separate from the parent and then live like an independent individual. So, budding is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and it takes place in Hydra and Yeast. Now, let us talk about the next type of reproduction, that is regeneration. Now, regeneration takes place in the case of planaria. It takes place in the case of hydra and starfishes. Now, what happens that if you take a planaria or if you take a hydra and you cut it into three pieces, okay, one, two, and three. So each of these pieces, okay, that you cut into, now each of these pieces will grow into a new organism, like how one piece, two piece, three pieces were there. Now each, like the first piece would develop into one organism, the second piece would develop into another, and so on. Okay, like if you cut five pieces also, five individuals would be there. Okay, five new individuals. So what happens, that regeneration capacity, it is sort of like an ability to what, to give rise to new individual organisms from its body part. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so that is regeneration. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now talking about fragmentation. This is the next method. Now in the case of fragmentation, it takes place in the case of Spirogyra. Okay, this is Spirogyra. So now what happens here, that the body of the simple multicellular organism, okay, like Spirogyra, the body would break into many fragments. Okay, and then each of these fragments will grow into new individual. For example, if this is the body, okay, this is the body. Now this body would break, for example, it would break into two fragments. Then each of those fragments would become a whole new organism of their own. Okay, so this type of method is known as this thing, fragmentation. Got it?
Yes, ma'am. They
Any
grow
doubts?
into a new individual.
Yeah, meaning the body breaks. Okay, and it breaks into certain fragments, and those fragments become new individual. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Now, can you quickly tell me what is the difference? What do you think is the difference between regeneration and fragmentation?
Ma'am, the difference is that in regeneration, the planaria or any sources of organism, they are being cut to develop into a new individual. But in fragmentation, the multicellular organism breaks up and grows into a new individual.
Good, very good, excellent. In the case of regeneration, we are actually cutting it, right? Now,
Yes,
if it gets cut by chance, then that would develop, right? But in the case of fragmentation, they normally break only. We are not doing it. Nobody externally is doing it. Okay,
yes, ma'am.
very good. I'm very happy. All right. Now, coming on to the fifth method of asexual reproduction, that is spore formation. Now,
Ma'am,
spore, yes.
ma'am, the fragmentation,
Hmm.
simple multicellular organisms or any other source.
Simple multicellular ones, not complicated ones. Now, if they are complex, then they will perform sexual reproduction. Okay,
Yes,
some
ma'am.
multicellular organisms are simple also. So, if they are simple, then they cannot perform sexual reproduction, right? Because sexual reproduction is a complex procedure. Getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. Now, talking about the spore formation. So, the spore formation takes place in the case of rhizopus, that is the bread mold. Have you seen the bread? Sometimes it starts turning green in certain places
Yes, ma'am.
when a bread goes bad. So that is because a rhizopus develops. It is a fungus. Okay, and then the spore formation also takes place in mucor. Now, what happened in the method of spore formation? First of all, there are structures which are known as sporangia. They are formed. Okay, sporangia are sac-like structure. Do you see this structure? Sac-like structure. That structure is known as a sporangia, and inside the sporangia are the tiny spores. Okay, spores are the tiny cells formed inside the sporangia. Okay, now what happens is that when the spores are liberated from the sporangia, when like just imagine the sporangia maybe bursting or liberating the spores, then as soon as these spores come in contact with a moist surface, it would develop into a new individual. As soon as it would come in contact with a moist surface, a hot environment, then the spores would develop into a new organism. Got it?
No, ma'am.
What happened? Tell me.
Ma'am, you said that the spores, right?
Hmm.
But the tough coating called sporangia is there. How come they
No, no,
develop it?
no, no. Tough coating. It's not a tough coating. Don't imagine it like a tough coating. No, just imagine it like a sack. Okay, a sack is there. Just imagine. You understand what a potli is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just imagine that you have put many coins in the potlis. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
but now if you remove the coins out of that, then the coins can be used, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Same thing. Just imagine sporangia is sort of like a portly, a bag. Okay, a sac-like structure. Okay, it is a structure inside which the spores will be formed. Formation of spores will take place inside the sporangia. Now, when these spores will be liberated, okay, liberated meaning either the sporangia will burst or the spores will be, like liberated, meaning they will come out of the sporangia. And when they will come out, and after coming out, they will come in contact with a moist surface when maybe they'll fall onto a ground that is very moist, or maybe they'll fall on when it is very high temperature. So when high temperature and moist surface they get, they turn into a new individual. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, this is like another, do you know why we keep our food in the fridge?
Ma'am, because if we keep it outside, the chances of getting. like the bacteria may grow up.
Exactly. And like many microorganisms can grow on it, and especially fungus. You might have seen that if you leave any food item, like such as roti, okay, or maybe, you know, like food like dal and all in summer times. Okay, so if you leave it in the kitchen like that and you forgot to keep it in the fridge, after like in the next morning, you'll see that okay, it starts smelling bad, it starts looking grayish and sticky. Have you seen that?
Yes, ma'am.
Why? Because in the moist and hot temperature, fungus development takes place in the food. More than bacteria, fungus development takes place. Okay, so this is the reason why we keep our food, like whatever leftover roti or leftover bread or leftover sabzi or anything, we keep it in the refrigerator. Why do we do so? Because in the refrigerator, the environment is very cold, first of all, right? So no high temperature, only low temperature is there, and it is very dry also, isn't it? The inside of the fridge is dry, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so no moist surface is there. So when moisture won't be there and the high temperature won't be there, so in the result of it, the fungus won't grow. That is why we keep our food in the fridge. Getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now moving forward, let us look at the next method of asexual reproduction, that is vegetative propagation. Now, here, now this is very important to remember that in this case or in this type of asexual reproduction, we are using the vegetative parts of the plant, meaning the like the plant parts that are not participating in reproduction. Okay, so those are the vegetative parts. Like what are the examples? Roots, leaves, or stems. These three parts are not involved in the reproduction, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Which part is involved in the reproduction? Think. I have taught you this chapter, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then okay, then you think. Which part of the plant is responsible or it's involved in the process of reproduction?
Ma'am, the carpel and the stamen.
Hmm, that's right. Where is it present? Which part of the plant is it present in?
Ma'am, you're not audible.
Oh, I'm asking you, okay, if it is carpel and the stamen, so carpel and stamens are present in which part of the plant?
Flowers.
Yeah, flowers are the reproductive parts, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. Now, any other part other than the flower, they are not the reproductive ones, rather, they are the simple vegetative parts, okay? Hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, very good. So, moving forward, we will see that root, stem, these are all normal vegetative parts. Okay, so when we are making a new plant with the help of a root, so the example is dahlia, the sweet potato. If we are making by the stem, then the examples are if we are using the rhizome, then ginger, tuber, potato, bulb, onion. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And if we are using the leaves, if we are propagating a new plant with the help of leaves, so then that is in the case of bryophyllum. In the case of bryophyllum, what happens is that the leaf of the bryophyllum, it has many buds on the margin, and these buds can be used to grow a new bryophyllum plant. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
any doubts?
No, ma'am.
All right. Now, after that, there are three more methods of vegetative propagation, such as cutting, layering, and grafting. Now, these are the artificial methods of vegetative propagation, artificial ones, meaning when we cut and we like sort of like cut the stem and then we actually join the two stems together to make a plant, so that is artificial type. But here we are using the stem and we are planting it so that a new plant can be made. Okay, so that process is normal vegetative propagation, but cutting, layering, and grafting are the artificial methods of vegetative propagation. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, see, after this point, let's come on to here. So, advantages of asexual reproduction. Okay, these are the advantages. Don't let anybody say that, okay, there are no advantages of asexual reproduction. That's not true. There are certain advantages. Now, let us see what are they. First of all, it takes less time. Okay, then it is less complicated as it does not involve gamete formation. Gamete formation takes time. So since gamete formation is not there, so it is less complicated, it takes less time. And then since the offsprings that are formed, they are the exact replica, right? They are clones. So we can say that in one way, it preserves the parental character, meaning whatever character are there in the parents, so it will also be there in the offspring. So it is preservation of the parental characters. This much is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
So this was all about asexual reproduction, how it takes place, what are the steps involved, and then what are the advantages. Now you must remember to write down all the this thing definitions. Okay, definition and the example, because examples are very important.
Ma'am,
Okay,
in which case they say Kala Hazar comes, like, which is leishmania or something.
kala azar is a disease which is caused by the leishmania. Okay, that is a
Ma'am, like,
disease.
is it related to this one?
Which one?
The asexual mode of reproduction.
um no, but actually see, the leishmania is actually a protozoan. Okay, and plasmodium is also a protozoan. So maybe that multiple fission or that thing, maybe that is a common mode of reproduction because they are protozoans. Okay, like how multiple fission it takes place in the case of plasmodium. This plasmodium is a protozoa. Okay, it is a protozoan. It is a type of member of a protozoa, and so is the leishmania. So maybe the method of reproduction is same in both. Okay. Hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now you can note it down, and before noting it down, you first read it nicely, you analyze it, and then you note it down so that you can learn it here only, so that you don't have to learn it later on. Getting my
Ma'am,
point?
tissue culture is not an important one, right?
No, tissue culture actually is not important, but actually I've seen that it is there in a square box in your book, right? Orangish box, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, see, that is an extra topic. Okay, first we'll do the main topics and then we'll do the extra topic. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Also draw the diagram while you're noting it. Okay.
Yeah. Ma'am, can you scroll down? 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 None, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there any doubts? Hello, am I audible? Zainab, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I was asking, do you have any doubts?
Sorry, ma'am.
Do you have any doubts?
No, ma'am.
All right, okay. So this was all about asexual reproduction. Now let us move on to sexual reproduction. Okay, now talking about the sexual reproduction. So here both the parents are involved, meaning the male parent, the female parent, both of them are involved. In the case of sexual reproduction, new variations are created, meaning new qualities are created, right? Now, talking about the DNA, like, see, basically, what happens during the process of sexual reproduction is that both the maternal and the paternal DNA are sort of like combined, right? And then it becomes like one organism. But when the two gametes fuse, the gamete form, or the cell which is formed, is a diploid cell, that is zygote. Okay, now see, what is the meaning of diploid and what is the meaning of haploid? Do you know it?
Yes, ma'am. Twice the DNA is diploid and half the DNA is haploid.
Yes. Meaning when two sets of chromosomes, learn it like this, okay? Two sets of chromosomes are present, then that is a diploid condition. When only one set is there, then that is a haploid condition. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, always remember that in the case of diploid, okay, the zygote is a diploid, all the body cells are diploid, whereas the gametes, they are haploid in nature. Now, they are haploid so that when they will be fused, a diploid zygote will be formed. Okay, meaning n plus n gives us 2n, and that 2n zygote will turn into the organism again 2n. Got it?
The organism will be diploid.
Hmm. Initially, like the parent is diploid. The parent would make the like sperm and the ova, which will be haploid and haploid. Now, the haploid sperm and the haploid ova will fuse and will make diploid offspring. Meaning, first diploid zygote will be formed and then diploid offspring. So, the offspring or the child is diploid and the parent is also diploid. So, obviously, the number should be the same, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. Now let us see what happens when the organism is like the gametes are actually not haploid. So let's just say if the parent is diploid and the gametes are 2n. So then the zygote will be 2n plus 2n, 4n, isn't it? And then
Yes.
the organism will be 4n. Now the offspring is 4n, whereas the parent was 2n. Is it the same?
No, ma'am.
No, right? So this is the only reason why the gametes are made haploid so that the offspring can be same, like it can, like the offspring can have the same number of chromosome as compared to the parent. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
any doubts?
No, ma'am.
All right, very good. Now moving forward, see, usually the male gametes, they are motile. Motile means that they can move, so they are movable, whereas the female gametes, they are immotile, meaning they cannot move. Okay. Also, apart from this, another thing to remember is that the male gametes are much smaller in size as compared to the female gametes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So this part that I have explained to you, it is sort of like the introductory part of the sexual reproduction. And then after this, we will be talking about how the sexual reproduction takes place in the case of, first of all, plants, and then how it takes place in the case of humans. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So first you note this much down up till here, and then we'll see if the time will be left. Then I'll start sexual reproduction in plants, or else in the next class. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, can you scroll down? Ma'am, can you scroll down? Ma'am, can you scroll down? Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am.
All right, so you've understood everything that I said in today's class?
Ma'am, you're not audible.
Hello, am I audible now?